Thank you all for turning out this morning. We have an amazing conversation coming up. I've been speaking to these guys over the past week, and given we've only got an hour, I probably could have spoken to each of them for 2 hours just listening to their stories. So I'm really, really excited to have the opportunity to moderate this talk this morning. We're going to kick things off with very short introductions from all our panelists talking about the cause that's most important to them. And then we will have a discussion and then hopefully have time for some Q&A with you guys at the end. So I'm going to introduce people as we go rather than all four at once. And yeah, without further ado, let's crack on. So my first speaker this morning is Ali. She's the Director of Brand Marketing and Communications at Tom's. Over to you.
Good morning.
Actually, you need this, don't you?
Sure, thank you. So many of you probably know about Tom's. I'm just going to go over a top line of sort of who we are, what we're about, and sort of where we stand today. We're turning a really interesting corner next year and hitting an exciting milestone of being 10 years old. So we're growing up and becoming an adolescent in the brand. So the purpose is really using business to improve lives. So that's the core crux of what we've determined as a company. This is our business model that we hope to improve lives not only through giving to children, but also really improve lives through the conversation, inspire other businesses, really continue to invest in our people internally, creating really a positive work culture and an environment there, and then also really kind of through, obviously through the impact that we're doing through our giving and through giving partners and different relationships we have in the philanthropic environment. Our promise and why we do what we're doing is, really together we make a better tomorrow, so for one another. So again, just kind of that idea that we're stronger together than individually. So as we develop partnerships and really amplify our story through relationships, that we really are stronger together, so for one another. And then our mission, as you guys know, with every product you purchase, Tom's will help a person in need. So that's really the core mission and how we do what we do. So it's really the practical implementation of the mission.
So we're going to pass on to Cyril now, who's founder for Parley for the Oceans. I was first introduced this through G-Star, which we're going to come to and hear a little bit more about. But there is so much more to this company and initiative. So it would be great if you could share some of that with the audience.
Okay, I try not to shock you. But actually it's time for a shock because we are at war. And it sounds quite drastic, I know, but the truth is in June 2012, I was as innocent as you are now. I had no clue that the oceans are dying and that we are pretty much looking at the end of our lifetime on this planet, because with dead oceans, with a dead sea, we will not live here, we can't breathe, we can't eat. There's a lot of stuff, and I will not go into details because we don't have the time. But June 16, 2012, I met a guy, and often that's how things start. And after that meeting, we founded together, my partner Leah and I, we founded Parley for the Oceans and thought, you know what, we can't just keep doing what we do. We were running a very successful design company and we were specialized on crisis situations, problems, like when a brand was really in shit, we would help to build it up new or turn it around, and we kind of like problems. So we learned about a problem, and the problem are the oceans. And the creative community, you, me, us, we are the resistance, because we can't wait for anybody out there to fix it. It's pretty much in our hands. And I just want to show what we do at Parley and invite you to be part of it. And there is no small, there is no big, there is no judgment for support or measure or anything. It's just like everybody can help. And I'm just here to recruit you. That's my job. Our job number one at Parley is to create awareness. And it's not just to say what I just said, oh my God, it's all so bad. The funny thing is, nobody gives really so much about it if you don't relate to it. So the first number one objective, and that's where you are pretty helpful if you want to, we have to create a link between people out there and the beauty of the sea, because you only protect what you love, and that's what Jacques Cousteau already said very clearly, and people just don't know the oceans. And if you don't know something, why would you do anything for it? And then comes the second aspect, it's a fragile universe out there, and we pretty much have to move our everything that we can to protect it.
We're going to move on to a very, very different cause now. Anna is the Global Planning Director at Leo Burnett, and she's going to be talking to us about an Always campaign.
Does it work? Yeah. So it feels really weird to talk about period pads after Parley, but I'll try. And if you give me, sorry. So I wanted to start with this, just to give you an idea where Always was when I started working on the brand. So this was a brand that thought that telling women that their intimate parts smell was actually okay, which it obviously isn't. And it was a brand that had no idea how to talk to women. And they were facing 3 problems. One was a complete lack of emotional engagement with women. Sorry, this is been a bit temperamental. So lack of emotional connection with women, because historically they had put too much focus on product performance and superiority. And they played in a very difficult category. I call it a low interest, high sensitivity category, because women will tell you they don't care about periods, but they actually do. And they take everything you say very, very personally. So it's really hard to please them. Always did really well for a long time because their products were actually truly better than competition, till competition caught up, and because their prices were also lower, Always got in trouble. And we started to see, especially younger women, moving away from Always and actually moving to other brands. So something had to be done. It was obvious that the key thing was to get women to engage with the brand. And being very ambitious, we wanted to make the brand popular. And we were told that we were completely insane, that nobody will ever engage with the brand, that nobody will ever share anything with that logo on it, because Always equals periods, and nobody wants to be associated with periods. And I think they had a point, and we really knew that they had a point, but we still needed to do something, so we cracked on. Our starting point was confidence when it comes up on screen. And I know it feels really cliche. It feels really cliche because every female brand in the world talks about confidence, but it was the only emotional thing that women associated with Always. They said confidence on your period. So we had to start from that. We knew that we had to find a very distinctive angle to it. So we sort of looked into confidence. We started to look at confidence throughout a woman's life, and we realized that puberty is by far the most vulnerable time for a woman. And actually, there is a massive confidence crisis that happens during puberty. So this is the research that we found, and the graph shows the bottom line is the self-esteem of girls, and the top line is self-esteem of boys. And this shows that there is a drop in self-esteem during puberty for both boys and girls, but for girls it is much bigger, and it really affects the rest of your life. So it is quite sad to think that as women we just play catch-up for the rest of our lives. And obviously as a woman I was very angry about it. I wanted to do something about it. So what we did, now that we landed, we went from confidence to puberty. We had to sort of try and understand, can we somehow minimize or reduce this drop in confidence? Is there anything we can do to change this? So we had to dig very deep into puberty. We read everything that was available out there, books, articles, research. And we found out that amongst all the fascinating things that happens to girls during puberty, that external pressures, so society puts a lot of pressure on girls, and especially gender stereotypes. So society loves to dwell on the differences between boys and girls. And just imagine you are a young girl and you are trying to figure yourself out. You're very vulnerable. You're trying to figure out what it means to be a girl and to be a woman, because you are becoming one. And as you look for answers, society gives you lots of rules, and it tells you how you should or shouldn't be as a girl, how you should look, how you shouldn't look. And even worse, you just see that boys around you are raised not to be a girl. And therefore, the message that you end up taking out of it is that being a girl isn't good enough. And obviously, this really affects your confidence. So we felt we found a really interesting territory, and we had the chance to actually change the messages that girls received at puberty and make them feel really good about being girls. What creatives did that was brilliant was take this strategy and make one more step, which was to realize that gender stereotypes are so ingrained in our culture, they're even part of the language. So the expression like a girl is used as an insult, and it shouldn't be. And we decided to change the meaning of the sentence and make it mean amazing things. The execution, which I'll show in a second, was just a social experiment. We recruited pre-puberty girls and then men and women, girls and boys, and we asked them to do things like a girl. And the difference in the way they interpreted the sentence, the pre-puberty girls and the adults, was quite shocking even to us, and which is why the video was so powerful and actually so successful. The very important thing to me is that we did change the meaning of the sentence like a girl. It became a symbol of empowerment, female empowerment around the world, to the point that on the 9th of March this year, the UN gave always an award for the impact the campaign had on female empowerment globally. So that was a great success.
So our final speaker this morning is Shubanka. He's the Global Brand Director of G-Star, and is going to talk a little bit about Parlay, but also G-Star's mission as a company at the moment.
Thanks. Good morning. So I'm going to talk about Raw for the Oceans, which was the project that we jointly did with Parlay, Bionic, and Pharrell Williams. So as Cyril sort of explained, you know, the ocean plastic problem is quite big, because when you see a quote like this, that the oceans contain 6 times more plastic than sea life, it's quite shocking. Probably not as shocking as the birds, but still quite shocking. And we produce about 100 million tons of plastic every year, of which 10% ends up either on the coastline or in the ocean. So it's quite a serious problem. We developed a multi-stakeholder collaboration to start this project. So we have the plastic problem, Parlay for the Oceans, responsible for the ocean cleanup program and also taking care of the cause. Bionic Yarn, which is a technological yarn producer, providing the solution. So that means taking the recuperated plastic and turning it into something useful, a yarn, and then G-Star to make the product. So you have a very sort of functional collaboration. So we also added into the mix Pharrell Williams, who we met at a Parlay for the Oceans talk in Berlin, and we decided that it would be better to have a A-list accelerator who could get involved in the center of the collaboration. So that means not like an alibi to join a cause, but as an accelerator for the idea, so not an endorser, and as a co-designer of the collection. Obviously, he's a man with sort of, you know, taste and high digital footprint and a big level of influence. So it can accelerate everything. So it operates like a booster for the engine. Bionic Yarn, they were making a technological fiber, so 30% recycled ocean plastic, wrapped with 70% cotton, and this means that G-Star is able to weave that into denim. So that idea was really about sort of, you know, how you take a problem, make a concept in order to provide a product solution. And at the end, I think that it puts sustainability as a condition for doing business. So it doesn't just become an alibi in a foundation, you donate some money. So it makes and proposes a new sort of kind of business model. At the same time, people aren't looking from brands to be told how they should live. So at the same time, the other important thing is that we need to understand that we're only part of the solution. So we're not the solution. And it's good that we can sort of, you know, work with Parlay, Bionic, get Pharrell in, and then build this movement bigger, because, you know, in order to take the small steps, you need a lot of people involved to make innovation, because it's always the work of not 1 or 2 people, but lots of people together, and happens over time. We started looking at sustainability in 2008 when, with G-Star, we did a partnership with the United Nations to support the Millennium Development Goals, one of which, number 7, is environmental sustainability. that made us at G-Star and our product designers think differently in terms of finding alternative materials for denim. So we were investigating everything from organic cotton to make jeans, recycling fabric to make recycled jeans, nettle and bamboo to weave in to make sort of more alternative cotton fabrics. And then in 2014, when it all came together because of, you know, the timing and the people involved, we were able to then boost this as the main G-Star global ad campaign. So when we launched in 2014, you had a big campaign visible everywhere. And at the same time, we did not feature Pharrell in the campaign. So we featured kind of a mix of young people, some other collaborators of the brand thrown in. So it was in order to try and build a movement. So you've got a consumer force behind it. In 2015, so everything takes time. We did the first collection, 2015. We made a film, which was with ID, documentary film about the plastic problem. And this features mainly the real heroes, who were the scientists, activists, and ocean cleanup people, who are doing the, let's say, groundwork to make a solution. So this features them as the heroes, not Pharrell. At the same time, Pharrell increasingly involved in the product collection, and he becomes also a magnet and a signal outside. So we got in Anton Corbijn, who we worked with in a long collaboration, to start photographing Pharrell. Started bringing in younger talent, upcoming musical talent like Rory, who's a very good singer-songwriter from Atlanta, who's hotly tipped, in order to get younger people into that movement. At the same time, instead of a campaign in 2015, launching a game app that is downloadable for free on on the App Store, where it encourages people to understand about the plastic problem in a very simple, fun way. And then you ask, well, what did it all achieve at the end? So some just highlight figures. Each collection uses about 10 tons of recycled ocean plastic. That's roughly about 700,000 plastic bottles. Means that in a year and a half, 3 seasons worth of collection, we're repurposing the equivalent of 2 million plastic bottles. On the cleanup side, the total plastic debris collected on the beaches has got to now 53 tons, which is a significant kind of number. And again, you don't do this overnight. So this is roughly a sustainability timeline. So we were at 1% sustainable materials in the whole G-Star collection when we were starting doing stuff with the UN, changing stuff internally. Then we started blending all the recycled materials into our biggest selling styles. So then the whole business system becomes 10% of everything is fully sustainable materials. Today, 2015, in the audit, is going to end on 20%. So it means the combination of this journey has ended up turning a $1 billion jeans company where a fifth of it is all sustainable materials. And what you end up doing is sort of future-proofing fashion. So the thing is that, you know, fashion is something that people desire. So it becomes about desire. And at the end, the job is how do you make sustainability desirable and not a sermon? Because that's what fashion can do. And at the same time, 21st century global consumers, especially some of the younger ones in the audience, they want ethical brands. You know, they don't want dirty brands. And I think that sort of in the future you can use sort of branding as an interesting business model to affect sort of change, because you can mobilize a lot of people. I should stop there because you need to start a conversation going.
Questions.
Yeah.
I'm really not doing my job very well, but they've all got so much interesting stuff to say. So first of all, let's have a round of applause for everything we've heard so far.